Planning and Zoning Board meeting for the night. And I'd like to ask everybody who's able to stand and pledge allegiance with us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We can do the roll call now. Planning Commission members. Gary Johnson, and he's at a meeting tonight. Paul Spranger, of course, is present. Steve Conway.
Here.
And Brian Sheldon.
Here.
Rick Schellenberger. Not present. Scott Phillips.
Here.
And Dalton Wilson.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum. Those that have seen and reviewed the agenda, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as written. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, seeing none, the agenda stands. And we'll have approval of the draft minutes that you have before you as of January 23rd, 24. I'll make the motion that we approve. I'll second by voice vote.
Second.
A second. And those for approval signify by raising your hand. And those against, seeing none, the approval of the draft minutes are now formally adopted. Communications from the department?
Nothing special tonight.
Nothing special tonight? You want to advise that we're going to have the stormwater for any?
Good evening, everyone. So just a reminder, we'll conduct our business first as the Planning and Zoning Board. We'll adjourn and then reconvene as the Stormwater Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. All right, we have a public hearing before us, and that's the review of LS 2024-01 application by Shad and Deborah Hackenbush pursuant to City Code 16.09, who are petitioning for a lot split involving the splitting of property. Applicants own and currently addressed is 810 South Meridian Avenue in Valley Center, 67147. At this point, it's now 7:03. I'll open the public hearing for comments from the public. If anybody have.
And I'll just present my staff report, which was included in the agenda packet, but thank you, Paul. Again, this is property that is currently one lot located at the southeast corner of Ford and Meridian. The work was done by Armstrong Land Survey, and Don Armstrong does apologize for not being here this evening. He had to pick his wife up from the airport and the flight's delayed, so it's unfortunately he could not be with us. But again, this has been reviewed and approved, is recommended approval for the from the city staff. This will again create two lots. As noted on the survey documents on the second page under site plan, it does show the existing house and the detached garage. That will be labeled as parcel B or become parcel B. So the house, the garage, and then the infrastructure. So there's a well and a septic and lateral field, the gravel driveway, all of that will remain with parcel B. And then the intent is that at some future time, parcel A be developed into a commercial development. Not sure at this point what that looks like. Most of this land is in the special flood hazard area. And so the landowners have been made aware of that, and that area needs to be raised and removed from the floodplain prior to us issuing any type of building permits or doing any site plan review. So there's still some work to be done. This is just the first phase of what they're looking to do with this property. But again, city staff does recommend approval of this lot split application. The public notice, the standard public notice, was put in the newspaper as well as the adjacent property owners. I received no protests, no questions from anyone regarding this project, or no protests. So again, we do recommend approval. And again, just how this procedure works is Should the Planning and Zoning Board, you tonight, vote to approve this lot split application, the next step is that the legal survey documents done by Armstrong will be filed with the Register of Deeds office, and this will formally become Parcel A and Parcel B as noted in the survey documents. I'll stand for any questions if any of the board members have any.
Any questions from members?
Ryan, this may not be the most appropriate time to ask this question, but in regards to the process of removing that property from the floodplain, I know we're going to be doing some work in that area coming up with the Meridian project next year anyways. What does that look like, or does that have to be determined later when they decide the actual use for that?
Yeah, so with most of it being in the floodplain, so again, we're just looking at the land in this respect. Yes, the southern part of Meridian, that project will begin. Southland Railroad Tracks, is that, when's that scheduled to start? Yes. Yes. I would say late fall, winter, somewhere in there.
Right.
But again, that review has already been completed and approved by KDOT and everyone involved in that project. So that road, those road improvements, the stormwater being put in, the sidewalks, everything like that is a completely separate project as opposed to this. How that process works is the property owner is required to get both a state and Valley Center, so a state and city floodplain development permit. In that permit, it says what the elevation of the property is now, how high they're wanting to raise it out of the floodplain. We have to consider the base flood elevation as well. And so once all of those factors are included in those two applications, the state reviews it and approves it, and then it comes to the city for approval. Once the city's granted approval, then they can proceed with bringing in fill dirt to raise that land out of the floodplain. And then after that, a separate application is submitted to FEMA through the letter of map revision process for fill, or a LOMR F. That is submitted to FEMA for review and approval. And should FEMA approve it, then whatever area has been raised to the standard it needs to be raised to is officially removed from the floodplain. So we're looking at, yes, it's the same geographic area, but two very separate projects.
Sure. I just wanted to understand how that worked and make sure they wouldn't interfere with each other.
So they would do the review with the state through the Division of Water Resources, and then through my department as we maintain floodplain management for the city. So they'll get those two permits at some point when they're ready to move forward with the fill dirt project, and then go from there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So then there's an option for a curb cut off Ford as well as Meridian.
Yeah, so definitely what would happen is once the area is raised out of the floodplain, if they are indeed looking at constructing some kind of commercial building, then it will go through the site plan review process. And so what that looks like is we're looking at the building footprint. We're looking at connections to the right of way. So whether that's on Meridian or Ford, our city staff review team reviews those first before coming to you as the Planning and Zoning Board. So based on our traffic standards and regulations, we'll make sure that wherever driveways are considered that they follow those standards.
So it does look like it's possible. Sometimes.
I think so, yes. And obviously, this is a very high traffic intersection.
Yeah.
Very excited for the upgrades that are going to be made to it with the Meridian Avenue upgrades. That's going to make that intersection so much better, especially with aligning the driveway to the west.
Yes, that's where I was going.
Going to be fantastic. But yeah, so we'll look at when we're reviewing the site plan application, we'll look at where they're proposing driveway connections to the parking lot, what that building footprint looks like at that time. City staff will look at that, and then eventually it will come to you as the Planning and Zoning Board.
Yeah,
but I would assume that'd probably be late 2024, early 2025. The applicants, they're still trying to figure out what this commercial building looks like, what kind of business they'd like to put into it. This is just the first step.
Sure, that's great. Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from members?
No, what Brad or what we just had, yeah. So you see the house is out of the floodplain, correct?
So the house, yes, is in it is a level of special floodplain, but it is a lower classification. The red area is the area that has to be removed before we can issue building permits.
Is the house a good estimate of what it should be raised to?
Perhaps it might be, again, without having a survey. I can't tell you. We can look at the, Brent can turn on the contours, and
I'd imagine it's grandfather, isn't it?
I can't even. And then Brent, can you zoom out? Because I can't tell. I need to find the nearest BFE line. Do you? Okay. 13. So it looks like the nearest BFE is 1345, and then the elevation is 1344. So it looks like it might be a few feet. The City of Valley Center with our floodplain regulations is that buildings are elevated 2 feet above base flood elevation. And so if it's 1345, it would need to be at least 1347.
So it's reasonably doable.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
so. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
especially if. Yeah. So the contour, and I know it's very difficult to see on that screen, even for me.
Yeah.
It looks like the house is at 1346, so that makes sense why it's pink rather than red. That pink is a lower zone. It's a zone X. And so with that being higher than the surrounding area, that could be a good indication. But if indeed, and again, Sedgwick County, the GIS map, they're pulling this floodplain layer from the official FEMA layer. So sometimes there's a little bit of error in translation, but it's a good rule of thumb that we can go off at least for now.
Right.
So if that base flood elevation is indeed 1345, then that would need to be elevated to 1347.
All right. Thank you very much. That sounds good. All right. If no other questions, we'll call for the vote. We'll close the public hearing as of 7:11 tonight. And I'll make the motion based on staff recommendations, public comments, and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board. I make the motion to approve, which is LS 2024-01.
Second?
I hear a second. All those in favor signify by raising your hands. All those, any opposed? Seeing none. All right, it's motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to introduce the next part of our meeting?
Well, we'll go through. So there is no older unfinished business, no new business.
Right.
Under staff reports, just a couple of items. First, please do hold April 23rd. That'll be our next meeting date. We have 3 applications to review, so it's going to be a very exciting meeting. We have a site plan, a conditional use application, and a preliminary plat. So very exciting. Yeah, the next meeting should be very exciting. But again, that's April 23rd, and please hold that date. And then lastly, a while back, I did ask the board, we've had some transition since then. If you would like a paper copy, I know I email out the agendas prior. I try to do it at least a week in advance. But if you would like a paper copy, please email Brittany after I send out the agenda and let her know if you need a paper copy or not. We're looking at ways, obviously, that we can be responsible stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and paper and ink, unfortunately, do cost a lot. So if you will email her and let her know if you would like to continue to receive paper copies, we're more than happy to provide them to you, but we just want to make sure that we're not wasting paper and ink. So once I send that out, if you can just email her, we would appreciate it. And that is all I have this evening, other than to wish you all a happy Easter. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, our next item, we're going to move into a different area, so we're going to now call for adjournment of this section of the Plan Commission meeting. And I make a motion that we adjourn the Planning and Zoning Board tonight.
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor, say we're raising your hands. Okay, motion carries. We're officially adjourned, and now we'll go into the next. You want to introduce that, or how would you like to make the introduction?
We can just move to that. We'll move to that agenda.
And the presenters?
And then Paul, you would just call the meeting to order, and then do roll call again. Just go through there, and then
Okay,
we'll get to Rodney.
here we go. All right, this for the public viewing. This is the Stormwater Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. We're going to have a meeting to discuss the stormwater for the city. And so we will now call for a roll call, which we have to do officially. Gary Johnson, not present. Paul Springer, yes, I am here. Steve Conway.
Here.
Brian Shelton.
Here.
Rick Schellenberger. He's not present. Scott Phillips.
Here.
And Dalton Wilson.
Present?
All right. So we do have a quorum. We do have an agenda before us tonight for this advisory committee meeting. I make the motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a second. And all those in favor signify by raising your hands. Okay. I see none, and I see none against, so the agenda is now set. We do have some draft minutes dated October 25, 2023. And I think everybody's got a chance to review those. I make the motion that we approve those draft minutes as standing.
Second?
I have a second, and Siri, call for the motion. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? None opposed. So the approval of those draft minutes is done. Communications, here's your opportunity.
Rodney's up.
Good evening, everyone, and pleasure to be back.
You want to introduce yourself for the public?
My name is Rodney Eggleston. I'm the Public Works Director, and we're officially presenting this Stormwater Citizens Advisory Meeting, our first one of 2024.
Yep.
As we discussed in the first Citizens Advisory meeting last year, this is a compliance step for MS4 permit. We have to meet a minimum of 2 times a year. Of course, that is totally up to this board. If there's a reason or that if there's questions in mind, we can certainly meet more often. But due to our permit, we have to meet 2 times a year minimum. So we were set to meet last month,
That's correct.
and then as for schedules and people not meeting. So I did send out, we had an inspection, an MS4 inspection for our stormwater permit on September 14th, 2023. I sent that inspection report and our response to that inspection report in that packet. You should have that. You should have had that for a while now. And then along with that, since the timing was right this time, I also added our annual report. So
Fantastic.
the last time we had they do these inspections for several reasons. It could be areas of concern, it could be complaints, or they'll randomly call inspections of your MS4 program. The last time before this was October 17th, 2018, and there was maybe 2 or 3 items that they called for us to address, and mainly it was in our own shop. Some things we needed to clean up, some things we needed to repair. This year, there was a couple areas of concerns, and so one was, so we had the Riverdale Apartments over here. There was a construction site. Yes, that would, areas of concern would be on page 14 of the compliance audit inspection form. Riverdale Apartments over here, the construction site, there was a few items in there. There was some debris, piles of debris that are to be cleaned up every day. There was some silt fencing, some BMPs around some surface inlets that needed to be maintained. They weren't being kept up, they were down. There were some areas where there was some small piles of concrete washout that wasn't cleaned up after it was washed out. So, and then one other area of concern we had out here, the Sunflower Valley construction site. There was some areas where we didn't have back of curb protection, basically BMPs. There was some dirt washing out into the street. So our ADH representative wanted to make sure we contacted the developer, made sure that got cleaned up. We got some back curb protection. So our Esteban Ibarra, our stormwater inspection officer, and Bill Andrews took a team approach to this. They contacted the developer at Riverdale Apartments. They contacted the developer at Sunflower Valley, expressed their concerns. Those items were corrected. And then the third area of concern was in our own yard. So we have at the Public Works Building, there is a wash bay area behind our building. At the bottom of that wash bay area, there is a catch basin. It's basically a cut in the concrete. So basically the debris can fall to the bottom, the water can come up. There's a top drain out pipe. Well, that was draining into our stormwater ditch, and that is not allowed. So we have since then dug that pipe up, capped it, and then this spring we're going to dig up the backyard when the weather's more conducive, and we're going to send that runoff to sanitary sewers. That's the compliance. Any stormwater wash off, it either needs to go to sanitary sewer, or we would have had to have applied for and entered into what they call an industrial stormwater. So for one area of wash off, we would have had to went through compliances and testing and everything with the permit. So we just decided to make that change, that wash to sanitary sewer. So you'll see some other pictures here. There was some minor things with some chemicals that were by the dumpsters. The dumpster lid was open. Our salt sand mix, they suggest, and we are going to work on this to extend the roof over that so it can't wash out, the salt wash out in and wash back to the ditch. We're going to work on that. And then behind the brine unit, there is another pipe there where if the water overflows the brine unit, it can go on that concrete, it can wash off the back of that down into that ditch. We're going to erect a small containment wall behind there and remove that pipe.
Okay. So what's your process for noticing property owners or developers?
That we have actual inspection forms.
Okay.
So, yeah, and Esteban, as you'll see in the packet there, he wrote an email on the response.
Right. Yeah.
With the layout, and then there was an actual inspection form that he conducted. And then they complete those, we'll scan those, keep an electronic copy, and we email them electronic copy of that form.
Right. So then if there's a non-compliance issue,
Yes, sir.
this
Then
is,
we can go back and refer to that. And then at that point in time, if they do not comply, there are steps. So we can issue a stop work order, so we can stop work until those items are corrected. And then it can go as far as an actual violation. So we can get a violation book from City Hall, we'll have to appear.
right. I asked that for purposes of the viewing audience who's
Yes,
not
yes,
not
absolutely.
attending. Yeah. Okay. So do you have anybody that's problematic in terms of non-compliance, or are you getting pretty good cooperation?
No, things have been going really pretty well with as many construction projects that we have.
Right.
They've been going pretty well.
Right.
Obviously, you have to stay on top of them because people just forget.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's a dynamic situation.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Normally, it just requires a reminder.
Okay. And we got the observations. Is this should we, for the purpose of the audience, is this your annual report, or is this the stormwater
I had
findings?
that in there if there was any questions on the annual report. So the annual report every year, so there's 6 minimum control measures that we have to comply with.
Right.
And each minimum control measure in our permit is worth so many points. You have to earn so many points within each minimum control measure. So you pick different goals or BMPs or what have you in your stormwater plan. So we keep track all year. So basically I and staff build a spreadsheet. And so as we're working toward those goals, we'll document our steps toward those goals. And then when we meet them, we'll document when we met those point values. And then that helps to quicken the process of filling out the annual report at the end of the year. So basically, KDHE will provide a form. You do this through an online process. You'll fill this form out, how you accomplished your goals, how you met your 6 minimum control measures for your permit. You'll write a letter summarizing how your MS4
Compliance.
formed, how it helped to reduce pollutants. And then you'll send this form in with that letter. And that is all due by February 30th or February 28th. So for 2023, that report's due on February 28th of 2023.
Right. Right. Are there any challenges that you have that the citizens and this city staff can better aid you
No,
in your
things have
challenges?
been going very smooth. I would say things have been going very smooth. And I would say that with our addition of Esteban Ibarra as our stormwater compliance officer, he's doing a fantastic job. He's going out, he's checking on the construction sites weekly. Things are going well. Now, I do anticipate our permit expires this year, at the end of this year. So normally the process is continue to work through this year on this permit. At the end of the year, we'll be notified sometime in the fall of a new permit's coming out. They'll send a draft for staff to go through. We'll read through and see any changes or any goals, any things like that they'll change on it. And then what we'll have to do is you have a stormwater plan that I included in the last meeting. So say in 2025, we'll continue to conduct ourselves according to our 2024 stormwater plan, even though the new permit is active. This allows staff to build the new stormwater plan and submit it. You have a deadline, an end date when that has to be submitted. You submit that to KDHE, they come back and they'll either suggest changes, recommend changes, or they'll send back an approval of that plan. And then, so the new permit, first year of the new permit, say is 2025, the first year you'll actually be operating under your new plan would be 2026.
Right. All right. Of course, people that when you say stormwater, a lot of the citizenry will be saying, well, but how are we going to protect ourselves from the 100-year flood?
Yeah,
And that's a totally different challenge. But
yes.
but I suppose hopefully that isn't going to come for a while.
No, I hope
Yeah.
not.
But a lot of the work done on the floodplain in terms of for people viewing, the department's done a great job of stepping up and advising anybody who's going to be doing any development to meet that new floodplain goal. And they've done a great job of doing that. So I think Valley Center homeowners have got a lot to be appreciative for.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And you've done some great work in your department. I know it's some long hours, but we just let you know we appreciate you.
Part of it sometimes, sir.
All right. All right. All right. That's good. Any questions in terms of for the department from members? Viewing that, anybody got any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for your annual report and kind of a candid update on what you're finding and the diligence that you're putting into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think people can be pretty comfortable about pollution and stormwater.
Appreciate that.
And of course, there's always something new comes up, but you know,
Sure is.
did a great job. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yeah. You,
As far as item 2 on the next meeting date, so we are only mandated to meet twice a year unless the board has any reason to have one earlier. It seems like your next month is a pretty full agenda. And if you would entertain a recommendation from staff, I would recommend we look into sometime in the summer, mid to late summer, so we can go through
Okay.
the rainy season, the stormy season.
so
And that'll allow us, maybe we'll have some items to bring to the agenda to discuss,
right.
maybe some good samples. So I'll work with Ryan and Brittany, and we'll work on one of the planning and zoning meetings later on this year, in mid to late summer.
Maybe the drought will come to an end this spring.
Excuse me?
Maybe the drought will come to an end this spring, and we'll
All of
have
us would like
we'll have
that.
new challenges. Less dust and more mud.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there, okay, so we have the next meeting date, at least in terms of concept, in terms of midsummer, maybe late summer. So we'll calendar that through the department. All right. Any other questions by members at this point? No. That's a pretty good sign that you've done a hell of a job. All right. Then at this point, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the Stormwater Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, unless there's anything else from staff. So I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second?
I hear a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Anybody opposed? Seeing none opposed, we stand adjourned of the advisory meeting tonight.